coming from Italy, we have an incredible wealth, richness of languages. When I say languages, I mean actual languages. I don't mean dialects and accents only, which are many in this country, but I mean languages. In Italy, a country that's slightly smaller than California, size-wise, United States, California, we have 12 languages within Italian. So Italian, the language that you all know, the typical standard Italian, is the national language. So we have this incredible, beautiful language, I think musical, the language of opera. It's a very musical and full of sound language. But we have 12 sub-languages. By sub-languages, I don't mean less important, but I mean regional. They belong to specific areas, often areas that border other countries, or the big islands, you know, the two big islands of the two largest islands of the Mediterranean, Sicily, the largest, and Sardinia, the second largest island on the Mediterranean. So I prepared a little map. Actually, I downloaded this map from the web because it was so well done that can give you just at a glimpse, you know, just at a first sight, the diversity and the complexity of our language. So this is a map of the Italian peninsula with the two islands in the south and in the west. And you can see by the colors, the macro areas of these languages, the micro areas of the languages. Now, throughout the whole peninsula today in 2025, most people speak proper standard Italian when necessary. What do I mean by when necessary? Not every day people speak proper Italian, because it all comes to history. We became a country in 1861, 1870. The times of the American Civil War, the years of the American Civil War, it's when Italy became united. So we are a very young country, almost 100 years younger than the United States of America, which is considered by most already a young country compared to other countries. So when you think of countries like France, for example, or Spain, those have been countries, or most of the areas have been considered a country for a long time. You know, we speak of France already at the time of Charlemagne, 800 AD. So 12 plus 100 years ago, they were already speaking of France as a Frank world with French dialects, but with a French united, more or less united, of course, not like today, culture. Italy was not the case. Italy became a country in 1870 when Rome joined Italy and became the capital of the newly formed Kingdom of Italy. It later became a republic. But we're not talking about history. Though it's important for you to realize that when a country is only 150, 160 years old, the standard language that today we adopted as Italian, modern Italian, has been studied only for a few generations. So if you are, for example, an older person, let's say a 95-year-old person from anywhere in the country, wherever you come from, most likely you will speak much better your local dialect or local old language, previous language, before the unification, than standard Italian. I can prove it with my grandparents. They're not with us anymore, but when they were alive, they would speak to me in their local dialect. And my friends from an hour drive away would come to town, speak with my grandparents, and it was hard comprehension. It wasn't easy to understand. The vocabulary was often different. Some words were completely different. The structure of the grammar became strange, especially in the border regions. If you look at this map, for example, if you look at the northwest, center north, and northeast bordering Switzerland, Austria, France, Slovenia, and then the southern area, Sicily facing Tunisia, the Arab world, and then Sardinia in the middle of four incredible places, Italy, Spain, France, and North Africa. You can imagine that people here spoke these languages for hundreds, even thousands of years. So 150 years of standard language is nothing in the big scheme of languages, okay? It's Italian, modern Italian is a baby language, okay, compared to other dialects. I'll give you a quick rundown. As you can see, the map shows you areas. I said 12 sublanguages. We have over 60 dialects in Italy. We have hundreds and hundreds of different accents. Generally speaking, I don't have much time, so I'm going to try to keep it simple for everybody, even though we can speak about this for weeks. And sorry if I'm using my hands, but Italian language also comes with a package of gestures. We use gestures for meanings, but also for punctuation and making sure that you get the concept to enhance the speech, you know? We do that. It's very typical. So I'll try to hide them on the screen, but at the same time, it's part of the language. So I'll show you a few. Central Italy, Tuscany. Everybody knows Tuscany. In this map is one of the largest regions of Italy, in yellow, Tuscany. And Tuscany is the region where Dante Alighieri, father of Italian comedy, but also one of the fathers, the founding fathers of the modern Italian language in the early 1300s, decided that it was time to choose one dialect understood by the most in central Italy by adding other subdialects, other languages to it, so that it could create something called the sweet new style, dolce stil novo, the sweet new language, a language that finally was understandable by most people in the Italian peninsula. In the 1300s, there was no concept of an Italian country yet, but we already had a concept of eventually becoming one, because we belong to this peninsula, once controlled by the ancient Romans, but we had never been a country. So Dante was a precursor of the unification of Italy, of modern Italy, linguistically speaking. So it was Tuscan, it was some other Central Italian dialects, and he added to it some important Southern Italian languages, like Sicilian, Siciliano. Sicilian was a completely different language. Today, still, as a matter of fact, I'm now in Sicily, I'm in the city of Syracuse. When you speak to people on the street, they hear your accent. When I speak proper Italian, so we have to speak standard Italian to understand each other. But if I engage somebody at a bar and this Sicilian language for Sicilian is an actual language with its own set of grammar, it's impossible to understand each other. If somebody speaks to somebody from the United States or Arabic speaking, it's the same. Of comprehension is almost zero. I'm not joking. I'll give you a quick rundown of some of the most important languages and dialects so you have a better understanding of how really crazy this little country is. But for a linguist like me, it's heaven, because wherever I go, I learn new languages, I learn new expressions, most of all new metaphors. You know, it's amazing. It's a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, today I learned a couple of other sentences and terms in Italian that I never heard of. From the northeast, I'll start from the north. That you will know pretty well, probably. So I will show you how it works. Venetians. Venetians have been speaking Venetian language, dialect, a full language, for 1,000 years. Of course, the Venetian language evolved, but the way they speak is heavily influenced by the area of Slovenia and most of all by the Germanic area of Austria, where they speak Austrian German. So when Venetians speak, often Germanic words. And for example, most Venetian last names end in a consonant, in an N, like in Nicholas. So in Venice, they sound more or less like this. The Venetians will forgive me, but we joke about each other all the time in Italy. So, mi sono Venezia. Mind of the Italian peninsula. So Venetian, very nasal, but also the words that they use are very Germanic. And a funny thing about the Venetians that we all love, we Italians love, is that they swear a lot. They use a lot they speak, but not only when they joke with each other. You know, you're at a bar, you're at a friend's house, you happen to say some weird words, you know, very informal. But even when they speak formally, they tend to have words that for the rest of the country are rude. But in their context, they're not. So the Venetians have this beautiful, beautiful language that it's very musical, but it's also very close to the Germanic sounds. As a matter of fact, you move from Venice, you come towards west in the northern area, and you arrive to the area of the Alps, you know, the Alpine mountains, you know, the big mountain range we have. People living up in the Alps, in villages up in the mountains, they are people that are really on their own. They're not close to any big city. They live mountain life, you know. Therefore, these people have a very specific sound, very Germanic, but also very, very somehow dark, you know. So the vowels become, Italian is famous for sound vowels like a, e, I, o, u, all these open vowels that we have, you know, like in opera. In the north, in the deep north of Italy, these vowels don't exist. Most of the vowels are sound like it's so close, it's so very kind of mountainous. They live in a shelter, you know, up in the mountains, and they're on their own. They don't come down, you know, they stay up there. So even their language sounds like that. Then you drive a couple of hours west and you're in Milan. Milan is our New York City, you know. Milan is our New York City, the capital city for economy, fashion, design, all these things related to big businesses. And in Milan, for example, everything is fast-paced. They speak very fast, like a New Yorker, you know. They don't have time to chat. They only have short time to make money in Milan. So in Milan, sono di Milano, come stai? Tutto bene? Voilà, cosa fai? So I'm from Milan, how are you? Everything okay today? Tac. And they finish the sentence, with this word, like in an old school, when you used to do like the telegraph, you would say stop at the end of the sentence, right? They do the same as this when they speak, though, not when they send a telegraph, because we don't use telegraphs anymore. So they say tac, T-A-C or T-A-K, to say, I'm done talking, now it's your turn, go ahead. So, sono di Milano, tu di dove sei? Tac, and now it's your turn. They have this incredible approach, very typical Milanese. And in Milan, one word, and you know they're from Milan, because they sound like that. Our former Prime Minister Berlusconi, who died a few while ago, he spoke perfect Milanese, a businessman. Tac, how are you, Tac? Then you go west from Milan to another huge, beautiful city of the north of Italy, big industrial city, one of the most wonderful, as Rainer was saying, underrated regions of Italy, Piemonte. Capital city is Turin. Torino is so close to France instead that the influence of the French language and culture is incredible in Torino. So incredible that most people in Torino are not able to roll an R like most other Italians. Like in Spanish, we tend to roll the R. We do the ramarro, you know, we roll the R. Not everybody rolls R, but in Torino, there's a very low percentage of people that can roll an R. The French English, so they roll an R the French way. And they don't say Torino, they say Torino, Torino, ne. And then they end this sentence with ne, like the Canadians sometimes do, hey. The people of Milan say tac, the people of Torino say ne. So, sono Torino, ti piace la cioccolata? You like chocolate? Nah, that's amazing. It's very typical. So far, I gave you 4 examples of Venice, the Alps, generally speaking, Milan and Turin. These 4 places belong to 4 different countries until 1861. That's why this incredible diversity of language and accents and sounds, because they developed their own languages for hundreds, if not thousands of years on their own. Never getting in touch with the neighbors, because people until recently didn't know. Traveling was for everybody. Today, most people can travel. In those days, 0.5% of the population could travel until 100 years ago, less, until World War II, actually. From Torino, you come to Italian Riviera, Cinque Terre, Italian Riviera, bordering French Riviera, and you are in Genova. Genova, another capital of the past, of the Republic of Genoa, one of the most important maritime fleets in the Mediterranean Sea. In Genoa, they traded with the Portuguese for so many centuries that this dialect, language, because again, it's not just a dialect, it's a language. In Genoa, they speak an accent, they have a similar Portuguese. So in Genoa, it sounds like if you hear some Brazilians speak some similar to Italian language. In Genova, in fact, they don't say Genova, they say Genova. E sono di Genova, sono di Genova, come stai bene? Tutto bene? Bene, tutto bene? Like the Portuguese, tutto bene? Tutto bene? Sono di Genova. Beautiful language, Genovese. Then you go closer to the center, you arrive in Bologna. wealthiest city per capita together with Milan in Italy, oldest university in the Western world, 1189, having high education, and then, of course, capital city when it comes to food in Italy, which is already a big deal. So Bologna is the food capital of Italy, oldest university in the Western world, very wealthy. So you have money, education, great food. What do you want more? You're fine. So the accent in Genoa is chill, very chill, very, very chill. Sono di Bologna, come stai? Tutto bene? Sono di Bologna, come stai? Va là. Ti piace la pasta, tagliatelle, ravioli, tortellini, and so on. They have a very chill, kind of California style California surf style, you know, very, very relaxed. And in Bologna, they have these very specific sounds, like instead of letter S, often they say ash, ash. And then they have a funny way to say double Z, you know, like in pizza. When the people of Bologna say pizza, it's easy to spot them because they don't say pizza. They're not able to say pizza. They say pizza, pizza, pizza. So they have this funny way of saying double Z. Then you come south and you arrive in Tuscany. Tuscany, cradle of the Renaissance, cradle of Dante Alighieri, the chosen language by Dante Alighieri to be the core of modern Italian. And that's why, unfortunately, the Tuscan people still believe that they speak the best Italian language of all, which in my opinion is not true. In Tuscany, it's very easy to spot them because they do not speak the K sound properly. Because in casa, house, they're used to transform K into ha, ha, like a breathing K sound. So they don't do the K, and they don't say la casa, but they say la casa, la casa. Funny, because when we tell them, oh, you speak perfect Italian, can you please say something like in English would be the Coca-Cola with the short straw? And they're like, of course I can say that. Say it. And they say, in Italian would be proper Italian, la Coca-Cola con la cannuccia corta. Okay, lots of K sounds in a row. The Tuscans sound like this. La Coca-Cola con la cannuccia corta. So they're not able to say K, and they sound the whole time. So that's when we make fun of them. Especially I can do that because I live next door from Tuscany. I live in the region of Umbria. And of course, we're cousins, and Italians, well, Italian cousins always kind of play with each other and joke with each other and sometimes fight with each other. Then you come to Rome. I'm going to give you a few more examples, but coming to Rome, you come to what would be properly considered, from an American perspective, our Mason-Dixon line. Basically, Rome is our DC. Therefore, south of Rome is the south of Italy, the deep south. North of Rome is the center north. So Rome is the divide. And in Rome, they still believe that they are part of the Roman Empire. They still believe that they're the capital of the Roman Empire, which is not the case. Maybe you heard, but the Roman Empire fell about 15 plus 100 years ago. They don't know yet. So they still think they're the gladiators, you know, the Romans. They all speak like gladiators. Even the little 2-year-old kids, they sound like Russell Crowe in the movie, you know. I am Maximus Decius Meridius. They all sound the same. And they do the language of Rome, the accent is amazing because it's always gladiatorial. And in fact, when they greet you, the Romans, they don't say, hey, hi, or ciao, come stai? They're like, ao, 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 which means, hey, ao, come stai? And they always joke about you. Even in a formal situation, there's always some kind of a joke. Like, oh, ti aspetto ancora, famo notte. If I still wait for you, it's going to be nighttime. Let's say you're late because you're in Rome. It takes you time to cross the city to meet a friend. They always joke about it. You know, in Rome, it's amazing. If you want to have the best time of your life and learn some Italian slang, sit in a cafe in Rome anytime in the morning during rush hour when people come and go for their espresso, cappuccino. And it's like Saturday Night Live every morning. They're all jokers. In Rome, they all joke continuously. Amazing, amazing. It's an incredible culture. And then they have they start having, like Southern Italians, several sounds, more sets of sounds. expressive sounds that don't even mean anything. They just embellish the speech, like "oh, hey, I'm video, oh, hey, ma che stai a dire, oh." They have these sounds that the rest of the country has no idea what they mean. It's Roman. Then you go to the deep south, you enter Naples. And when you enter Naples, you're in the beginning of the deep, deep south of Italy. And in fact, Neapolitan is a full language, completely different grammar, like Venetian, like Genoese, like other areas. But it's one of the most musical languages of Italy. And in fact, Neapolitan is also the music used for most of Italian traditional masterpieces when it comes to music. If you like Italian music, you might have heard songs like O Sole Mio, O Soldato Innamorato, O Sarracina, Torna Surriente. They're all in Neapolitan. Okay? How does Neapolitan sound? In Naples, it's sounds on steroids. In Naples, 10 sounds, 2 words. They have meaning. They even give meanings to sounds. For example, in Italia will be, "Oh, ciao, come stai? Andiamo a prendere un caffè? Dai." So it means in English, "Hey, great to see you. Hi, how are you? Let's go get a coffee, shall we?" A typical expression. In Naples, it sounds like this. "Ui, where you? Ah, come stai? Sta bene? Andiamo più a caffè. Oh, yeah." That's how Neapolitan sounds. Does it look like Italian? No. In fact, Neapolitan has very strong Arabic, Greek, North African, and Spanish influence, because Naples was controlled by the Spanish as well and the Arabs for a long time. So the Neapolitan language it's so incredible that people are able, like in some Arabic dialects, in some areas of the Middle East, they do it. Only in Naples, in Europe, people are able to create language as they speak. They invent words as they speak. They agree on the word automatically, and the word becomes part of the local vocabulary of the neighborhood. It's called parlesia. It's a technique that some Arabic areas use. A word that means nothing now, in 10 minutes will mean something, and then it becomes part of the local slang of the neighborhood. It's amazing. Then you go further south, you enter the deep, deep south, Calabria, the part of the peninsula that's the tip of the island before the Strait of Messina, therefore Sicily. Calabria is famous in Italy for many things, beautiful beaches, but also for the spicy food. The spicy food of Calabria is the finest in Italy. However, probably because of this reason, the Calabrese people have a problem with spicy food, because, I'm joking, of course, but their accent sounds like they always have to vent and speak and take a breath because they ate a lot of spicy food. So in Calabria, we start seeing some incredible changes in the language, where the verb in the sentence goes to the end of the sentence, like in Latin. So they don't say I am Calabrese, or I am from Calabria. They say from Calabria I am. Kind of like Yoda in Star Wars, They speak inverting words in the sentence. And they sound like this. "Oh, Calabrese sono, come stai? Tutto bene? Oh, ti piace la Calabria? Ti piace la pasta piccante?" They sound like this, like they're losing their breath, Sometimes when I speak to a Calabrese for a long time, I feel like they're choking to speak with you. They sound like somebody's strangling them, It's true. Then we have the 2 big islands, last examples. Sardinia, so the big island west of Italy, south of France, east of Spain, north of Tunisia, Sardinia. In Sardinia, they speak a language, the oldest language in the Western Mediterranean, so old that it's older even than Latin. Okay? So when they speak Sardinian is a language that today is the development of Phoenician Carthaginian dialects from nowadays Lebanon and Tunisia, Latin, Spanish, Catalan, and Greek, on top of course, Latin. Yes, it's amazing. So Sardinian, they speak a language that it's not comprehensible by any other person. Has very few in common with Italian and with other mainland Italy dialects, okay, and languages. One feature of Sardinian language is that they use the verb at the end, like in Calabrese and also in Sicilian. I'll give you a couple of examples of Sicilian before I finish. And another thing that's typical, unique of Sardinian is that they double all the consonants. Even the single consonants are doubled in Sardinian, so they sound like this. Uè, aio, sardo io sono, come stai? Tutto bene? It's all ta 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 ta, like a shotgun, like a machine gun. Yeah, it's amazing. Sardinian is very easy to spot. 2 words, you know they're from Sardinia. And then they say, to say hey, they say aio, aio, A-I-O accent. There's plenty more. Of course, I'm going quick because I don't want to waste your time. We have limited time. Sicily, the biggest island in the Mediterranean, the place that suffered 17 different dominations in 3,000 years. You can imagine what an incredible mess Sicilian language is. So much that there are several Sicilian languages, depending on where in the island. But the language is one, Sicilian, recognized by the UNESCO and by the United Nations and the EU as an actual language, studied in schools in Sicily as well. They're re-promoting Sicilian. Of course, they all study Italian, but Sicilian is a very important treasure language for us. Sicilian, we can divide into Western Sicily and Eastern Sicily accents. Western Sicilian, Eastern Sicilia. So Western Sicilia, Palermo, big capital city of Sicilia. Eastern Sicily, Catania, more or less. These are the 2 cities. You must be familiar with some of these sounds if you watch some movies, Italian-American movies, gangster movies, like The Goodfellas, The Godfather, The Sopranos, and so on. The sounds of Sicilian are unique. And Western Sicilian sounds like this. It's super melodic. It's like an Arabic chant going up and down continuously using Italian-like words, but not necessarily Italian. Most of the vocabulary in Sicilian, nobody can understand other than the Sicilians. Western Sicilian of Palermo sounds like this. Mi, già, come stai? Tutto bene? Ah, mi, sei tornato a Palermo. They say Palermo. 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 They all sound like this. It's incredible. If you walk through the streets of Palermo, through a market, Ballarò Market or Bucceria, the sound is incredible. It's like a chant, like thousands of voices yelling at each other, of course, because you're in Italy, so yelling, they're not talking, they're yelling. And it's normal for them. While in the East, in Catania or Syracuse, where I am now, the sound is completely different. Still Sicilian, different words. Many words are different from west to east. It's about almost 5-hour drive from west to east, so it's a big island. And in the east of Sicily, they sound more like The Godfather. So they sound like very monotone, very flat, and very dramatic. Even if they're telling you the sweetest thing in the world, they sound like they want to kill you. So they sound, mi di Catania sono, come stai? Tutto bene? Ti piace la Sicilia? Do you like cannoli? I love cannoli. That's how they sound. It's incredible. It's incredible. This is just a little scratching the surface. But Italy is in this case, it's a huge place being a small country. If you like languages, linguistic sounds, there's plenty more. And of course, when I guide my own tours, especially guided by, because I design my own tours, languages, music, and linguistics are always a big part of it to let people understand better the diversity of the country. Long story short, Italy in a nutshell, the diversity is incredible, and it's reflected in each and every field of human history and anthropology. Yeah, I can recommend several books about Italian languages and dialects. I don't have titles right now with me, but if you drop me an email, I'll respond with some titles for you with pleasure. So in the whole human spectrum in Italy has an incredible diversity, very, very special in Europe. And you can see that in the language, in the dialects, you can see it in the food, in the wines, in many things, the way people dress, the way the traditions are. You know, it's a very, very rich country because it's a new country. So the diversity that used to be before the unification of Italy, it's still here. The unification of Italy, it's a work in progress. And hopefully, and surely it will take thousands of years. Yes, Tom. Also, sign language is unique too. In fact, you can see we use our hands like we can't stop our hands. We will have maybe another talk about Italian gestures and Italian body language and posture, but also the expressivity. It's very important. When you speak, we use our expression a lot. Sometimes people think we're fighting, but we're not fighting. We're just talking. But it's the way we talk, you know. Anyway, this was the end of my presentation. I want to share one last slide, 1 second, so that, thank you very much. I want to share one last slide for a second. So to wrap this up, this was the map that I was sharing earlier. You see all the areas. I just skipped through. I just skimmed through the map. Of course, we jumped through a lot of areas, but really there's a lot more to cover. If you want more, talk to me. Three that designed around myself, Emilia Romagna Marche, Umbria, Tuscany, and Sardinia, which is going to be launched next year in spring 2026. And I look forward to that because I look to very double consonants in Sardinia. And yes, and if you need to reach out to me directly, so for example, your question about books and other things, david@guided-by.com, that's my email. And that's the website where also on my page you can have all my information and the tours that I run. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, everybody.